Hi friends, and welcome to Please Leave by Nine's After Party. These mini episodes will be shorter in nature and provide you with even more on the topic covered in the previous episode or episodes past. So sit back and keep on relaxing, and welcome to the After Party.
I have maybe a hot take. I'm curious what you guys think about like movie and show adaptations of games.
Hey! Welcome to the party.
We only have one rule here.
Please leave by 9.
I think I see the game like taking show adaptations of games that were successful. I see the trend being very similar to what we saw in the last 10 years with like book adaptations, where the amount of money and investment you need to like start a film production is getting so high now that the risk of starting like a new IP is very risky for production studios. So they would rather take something that was already successful content, like a previously popular book, and convert it into a movie or a TV show. And I think that makes sense. You already have like a fan base that is already kind of committed, so you have guaranteed kind of income flow there. But there is something to be said about, you know, are we just going to converge into a world where every successful show becomes a game and every successful game is going to become a movie? Like there is some kind of interaction with like different forms of media, and I think certain things are good at for, you know, a show and certain characteristics are good for a game. So I'm like wary about what's going to happen. Are we just going to have like kind of duo releases of like, here's the show and here's the game of it, and here's the game of it and here's the show of it? You know, it seems maybe less creative if we keep doing it for like a longer period of time.
It is kind of a scary trend to have like everything need to already have some kind of fan base, because I don't know, I don't feel like things are always gonna be a good movie out of like shows, but like it is a guarantee. Like terrible things come out, like Uncharted, and it like broke box office records for no reason, just because people liked the game.
It was a bad movie.
It was
a bad movie.
I think you just need to like change where you look. I agree with you, Tim. I think in terms of like movies and video games, that I don't know what the like IP-ization of things, like there's less and less and less new and interesting things like in the forefront. But I feel like there is like a pretty thriving like indie scene to like video games. There is that depth if you want to see it, although it's not like as mainstream. Like I know what you mean. Like I feel like the niches, there's like more niches and there's more diverse. So like I don't know.
I think the scary thing is that the money isn't going to be going towards that as much anymore, because it's been proven that
that's the thing. Like
that the franchises are a more guaranteed money. So I think that's like what's scary, is that like any money that is out there that could go towards like building a new world or building a new game, funding a new film, it's going to be less likely to go towards those independent things, which makes it harder as a creative person to like create something new, because the money is just going to go towards what is established. And I think it's scary.
I think that's the same thing, like with just like corporate, anything that's like, oh, we need to do this for the money, because how else would these companies stay in business? How else would they be able to do this? Like they have to guarantee that they're going to get people to be curious about coming and seeing something, and whether it's good or bad, it's like, this is how we're making profit. And then everything else is lower, you know.
I think the hope is that ideally you would have the big franchises and like make those movies, whatever, off of those games that have like a built-in fan base, and then use that money to fund independent things. I think would be a nice like balance to it.
Tim, great question. I actually have had this whole, so you brought it up without having me to do it, but The Atlantic came out with a whole opinion piece on why do we need video game content in media today, because of what you just pointed out. Like, aren't we all going to get to the point of like it's already done? But what they touched on was really interesting to me, and I didn't think about it at the time. It's just that their storytelling is so different in video gaming, right? So like we have the way, and we are supposed to keep ourselves entertained with certain parts, so they'll squeeze in storyline, and even sometimes plot holes make it through you, like they just go over your head because you're like, it doesn't matter, I'm like busy fighting off zombies, like I don't need to know, the logistics of X, Y, and Z. So they found that with The Last of Us, when you bring in the storytelling of Craig Mazin, who did the Chernobyl series. So that man is a talented writer, like he is talented, and so you bring in his dynamic with Neil Druckmann's world creation. Neil Druckmann, also a genius, right? Don't get me wrong, but he was good at building the blocks of the world, but Craig had to add human emotion in, and that's what video game storytelling does not have all the time, is how people connect to one another, like the thing, and that's why they had to add it into The Last of Us. And the person in this article for The Atlantic was saying they don't think The Last of Us is that groundbreaking because it was just it's just going through the thing, like the
gameplay isn't what makes it special.
Yes, that is exactly it. Like the story itself is fine, but putting your human experience, your own experiences into it makes it more memorable for you, because you're like you're the one who tried to hide from the sniper, you're the one who took the girl all the way to the checkpoint. Like that's where you insert your kind of feelings behind it. But when you watch it lay out on screen, they were finding that people are like, oh, instead of like me pressing down the thing to make the rope happen, they were like scrolling on their phones while like the game is happening, or like the movies happen. Like they needed something it was hard for them to watch.
Why should I care is the question. You got to make
what?
Care. Well, you have to make your
yes,
care.
Exactly. And it just brought up this really good point.
I don't understand what the argument is. Are you saying that the game was better than the TV show and that the TV show's missing something, or that the cross was really good?
They were saying they don't want any more video games in. Their argument was they don't want any more video games to be made into TV shows because the gameplay already. They just didn't like video games in general. I think they were a little too obvious about that. But they were saying that belongs there, and then TV belongs to the Craig Mazins and the Chernobyl creators, the cinema. The storytelling belongs there. We don't need to bring it because now we have a lost in translation problem.
I don't know. I think that's a little unfair, actually, because I think The Last of Us was actually a really incredible show. It was shot really well. The storylines were really good. You really did, I thought that it was a really good show, and I think a lot of people who played the game thought it was a really good show and loved it, and I don't think that a lot of adaptations have done that really well, like adding in that creative side to make it more human and make it. I think The Last of Us is groundbreaking because it's such a good example of combining both the world that they built in the video game and the creative part of filmmaking that often gets lost because they're just we have to make this movie, we have to make this world exactly the same way as it was in the game, and the filmmaking kind of part gets lost because it's already made. And I think The Last of Us did a really good job of combining both of those, making it fun for someone who's never played the game, but also making it fun for someone who has played the game to live in that world. Argument might be a little unfair to actually what they did do in that show, because they did a good job. And I don't mean that everything now needs to be every game needs to be a show now, or every game needs to be a movie, but I think people can use that as an example for how to do it in the future.
I wouldn't know it came from a video game, but I feel we're ignoring I watched the World of Warcraft movie, and that was just terrible, and that has a huge fan base, and there are some things that you can tell they tried to force into things.
I think
there's lots of different video game styles, and they try to just take a popular IP and make a movie out of it. But you need to take, if you're going to be making thoughtful and well-made show, it has to have a linear storyline. So you either have to make that yourself, which if you're just grasping for popular IPs, you're probably not going to be wanting to put that much effort into it. Or you can take an IP that already has a very linear, thought-out story, like Last of Us did, and retell that story with the live stream. But World of Warcraft and stuff doesn't really have one linear story. You're kind of just one of 100,000 people running around doing some stuff.
Wasn't there a Halo movie? And is it
Halo TV show?
I think
There's
that
a Halo TV show, and it's not good.
No, it's not. It's terrible. Same with the Witcher TV show, and that was a book
Yeah.
and a video game. I think that like ultimately at the end of the day, what it is that like it's not whether this might sound a little reductionist, I guess, but like it's not where like what video game like it came from. It's like, is it good or not? Halo was just bad. Like Witcher was just bad. But it's like you said with the writing in Last of Us, like the story was already written in the video game. Like it was written well, and it was written well before it was ever a show. Like I don't know if this is like maybe like reducing it, but like, is it good or not? And like you said about like linear storylines, sometimes you have to make one. Like the World of Warcraft movie, I never watched it, but I am, like you said, I'm sure it was bad. Almost every video game adaptation is bad. I was surprised. Angry Birds movie.
The first or the second?
I only ever watched the first one, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
The Mario movie
Super
also
Mario,
very good.
really good.
I have yet to see that one, so
I've seen it.
But until now, I maintain that the Angry Birds movie is the best video game movie adaptation that exists.
You're hilarious.
So they
Yeah.
said that another thing is that they said is the thing about certain video games that, like you were saying, if they don't have a linear storyline, we have to give them we have to give them something to work with. So the thing about the Angry Birds is that you don't know them, right? You don't know their names
or story that exists.
They had to build that.
Yeah,
entire
they had to
All of it.
create all that, and so that's why part of it worked, because your expectation wasn't like, I grew up with like Redbird and like Army Pig and they were my favorite.
Right.
It's like you don't know
Right.
who they are. So
No.
they did it, and they said that critically Angry Birds 2 was much better. Oh, we lost Ben. I don't know where the hell.
Oh no.
Great. He was like,
not
I'm
even
done.
not even surprised. He probably got a phone call or something. But yeah, Angry Birds 2 apparently did very well. Angry
play
Birds 1
devil's
did not.
advocate. Ben brought up a good one. I was gonna mention The Witcher as well, where it is really good content and IP, and like Ben mentioned, it started off as a book that was successful, so they made a game, and then the game did really well, so then they made a show. And I think the main guy, I forgot what his name is, like the
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Henry Cavill. I think he was supposed to do like season 2 or 3. Correct me if I'm
He's
wrong.
not.
But they said that they're gonna take like creative inspiration and change how they're gonna do like season 2 and not base it off the game or the book.
Nice.
And season 3. And so he like refused to play the character anymore because he's like, I don't want to go off of like not go off of the main IP. I want to stay on
That's
it.
probably good anyways because his character is
Yeah, he's a big gamer too.
really
Like,
flat.
Yeah.
in the show.
But it was like a good series and it's good content, but it's just like how many different variants of the content do I have to see? Like if I read the book and play the game and then watch the show, and is there going to be a movie in 2 years? It's
I
just
think it makes certain titles less special because, for example, they're going to make a God of War series. Now, I've played only the most 2 recent ones, so I haven't played 1, 2, 3, spin-off, PSP. I haven't played any of those, but I know a lot about the history, and I just feel like if you make that a TV show also, you lose that first initial connection you had to when you played the games, because that storyline is amazing and that could be a really good HBO show or whatever, but because it started as a video game, I almost want to like, as like a fan of it, I'm like, don't touch it. Like I already like them like this, and this is where I know where they are, and like
yeah, that's kind of, I guess, for
Ben, we're talking about God of War.
God of War has had a hell of a journey from like where it's, I mean, if you look at like the first games, they're like objectively, you know, like I would say misogynistic at least. You know, they're all brutally violent, but you know, it was different also back then. When did the first Gods of War come out? Like 2004?
2005.
Something like that, 2006, 2008. Yeah, it's different now. And I think actually that original context of God of War like informs the current one in like you can look back on it now and be like, it hasn't aged very well. And you can look at it now and be like, well, like the context that old stuff created is like what makes like Kratos' like transition to fatherhood so interesting.
That's what makes the new games make so much sense.
Yes.
And they're making it, Amazon Prime acquired the rights, and they're going to make it a TV show.
Neat.
I feel like everybody just wants to
Amazon
be
Prime.
Star Wars / Avengers, where people will just consume any form of media and buy any sort of merch that comes out.
I think I've mostly exited the Avengers Marvel scene like since
So have they.
War. I was like, that's good. I just stopped. after-
I pitched Squirrel Girl to someone recently.
I would watch a Squirrel Girl movie.
And they were like, yes.
I love Squirrel Girl.
Not a video game.
Colin, what were you gonna say?
Wrapping back to BioShock, the movie / TV show. I think I wouldn't be excited about it if it wasn't Guillermo del Toro doing it.
If it wasn't Guillermo.
Because a big part of a lot of games is just kind of the exploration and like the immersion and like taking your time to like walk around and just like live in the world they've built. And like it's hard to do that in a way that entertains people in a show or a movie.
That's true.
World building's harder in a show or a movie, right?
Yeah.
You don't have as much time to do it.
Really expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why in the new Mario movie, a lot of people pointed out, and I didn't even realize it until my sister said something. One of their main characters in the franchise wasn't in it. And I didn't even realize. I was like, what? But it was because they were world building. What did you say?
I said Waluigi wasn't in it.
Well, no, he wasn't. But that was obvious.
So dirty every time.
That one was obvious, but no, it was and it was because they were world building, so they wanted you to get in for like get through the door, and then they're like, okay, we're setting it up for.
You can't like bombard. People.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, Yoshi wasn't in the movie, and everybody was like, "Where's Yoshi?" What?
You heard about that?
Oh, Kirby. Kirby is a different.
He's a different franchise.
Yeah, he's a different.
It's still Nintendo, but he doesn't exist in the Mario world.
I know.
They're fighting
in Mario Party, they exist.
In Super Smash, they all are friends.
Yeah, but in Super Smash Bros, it's.
See, I was confusing the Super Smash because that's like one of the only titles I've played with Mario in it consistently. So the whole time I was like, well, what about so-and-so? And I was like, oh, wait, they're not. That's not part of it. That's not it.
Yeah.
And then I knew there's certain forms from like playing racing games. When he was Tanuki, he showed up as Mario as Tanuki and Mario Cat. And I was like, I know them because of the racing one, the racing game. But yeah, that one, I think that one's a cute movie because I wasn't expecting much. And then I got Jack Black singing Peaches, 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 Peaches. And I was like, this is Oscar gold. He's going to win an Oscar for his performance, which is long overdue because he should have won an Oscar for when he sang in Nacho Libre Encarnacion. And he should have won for that, but he didn't. So...
Yeah, Jack Black's talent as a voice actor is something I've like just kind of really found out, like between Shark Tale and now.
Shark Tale, Shark Tale, that's right.
Shark Tale again.
Ben, Claire, and I watched Shark Tale, and we just didn't realize all the parallels between it, and like, just they were talking about so much stuff that as a
if you want
kid.
to dress like a dolphin, son.
So what? Your son wants to dress like a dolphin. You gotta still love him anyway. And I was like. It's like, yeah, he's right.
A Gaviota Media House production.